Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi.
Should I call you Susan or Miss Sarandon or?
I think Susan is perfect.
Susan is perfect. I'm Dave Spencer. It's quite something to talk to you. And
Thank you.
the minute, let's get right to it. The minute I knew that Senator Bernie Sanders was going to run for president, honestly, I'm not kidding. The first person I thought of is, well, I know who's going to be all over this.
And I did. I called him as soon as I heard he was running. I was so pleased, and I didn't even, realize how much of a following he would, how amazing the response would be. I just thought, I'm going to be on the right side of history for this one, and the fact that it's turned out to be such a lasting and major deal has really been so moving.
The right side of history. And, I want to get to a question that some folks have and I have talked about, some friends of mine and I. We've got Senator Sanders, we've got Secretary of State Hillary Clinton on one side, and you say, well, they're both Democrats. Don't they pretty much believe the same things? I'm like, no, they really, they really
certainly
don't.
do not.
No, they do not.
I think that's what's so interesting at this point in time is the conversation that has happened never would have happened had it not been for Senator Sanders entering the race, and he's engaged and activated and enthusiastically brought so many people into the Democratic Party who've been independents or green or hadn't been interested in voting, felt disenfranchised. And to see that happen has been so exciting, people really taking the chance to be involved, because, of course, it's heartbreaking if you go out there and then it doesn't work. It's been very frustrating, some of the states where there's been so much voter fraud and so much, so many thousands and thousands of people showing up and then not being able to vote for one reason or another. And there's still so much, some of these caucuses have gotten so out of hand, to see what the DNC is doing has been so crazy.
So tell me, first, Senator Sanders had a huge win in West Virginia, and what we're talking about here, a lot of folks have said, mathematically, how in the world can he do it? But I've heard the senator say, we're going to the convention, and, we'll settle it there.
Yeah, I think he said, everybody should be able to cast a vote, and who knows what's going to happen. I mean, she's under investigation, and there's also, who knows, so many different things can happen, and there's so many contested results also, and then already we've had a few states that have voted against superdelegates,
right?
Which is pretty interesting, and what was the last state? There were both Republicans and Democrats who said they didn't want superdelegates. So I think the whole way that voting has changed in this country since the 80s, and the superdelegate thing is really being scrutinized. And of course, on a lot of very important issues like the environment, fracking, for instance, and Monsanto and everything that's poisoning the earth, you have a huge difference. So you have people who feel very strongly and passionately about the environment who can't deal with Hillary Clinton because of she's taken so much money from and has been selling as Secretary of State fracking all over the world. So that's just one instance where people who feel that the global warming is one of the biggest threats to America at the time feel very strongly for Bernie and would find it very difficult to switch to Hillary Clinton.
So in coal states like West Virginia and Kentucky, how does the senator get his message across?
Well, I think that it's very clear that incremental change is not change.
Right.
And, coal is not going to go on forever, and they're suffering in West Virginia, and tops of mountains are coming off. And so what you have to do is something that's very brave. It doesn't mean that it's far left. It's what FDR did. You have to create programs to give jobs that strengthen the infrastructure, and you have to change over to clean energy. I mean, that's inevitable. Coal is gone. Coal is not is not going to get any better, the coal industry. I mean, and I think people understand that, and obviously understand that in West Virginia, or they wouldn't have voted for him because that's his message. So we have to think bolder. We can't be to shore up the status quo is not practical because the status quo is not working, and the middle class, Republican or Democrat, can testify to that. And so I think that it's been surprising. Here's a man that's been in government for so long, and you can look back at all the treaties he's voted against, and you can see his stand, and people have come forward with small amounts of money, but millions and millions of people. And I don't think in my lifetime, with Citizen United in place, that we will ever have a candidate again that can say that he is free of big money, of Big Farm, of Monsanto, of fracking, of Wall Street. And I think, we can see by the response to Donald Trump that people are looking for someone that's authentic, someone that is an establishment. And it's just a shame that so much of it is rigged, that, people couldn't hear about Bernie Sanders until he won Iowa, that he's been look in Kentucky. I mean, it's going to be very close, but he started at nothing.
Right.
And so yeah. I think that the American people are now awake, and the conversations that we're having are really important conversations. And it's made me fall in love with America all over again. I mean, when I see people that have taken a chance to be involved and engaged and really are fighting for their farms, are fighting for their water, they know, they don't have health care, really. They're paying off their school debts till they're 50. I mean, something's wrong with that. Other countries have it we're the richest country in the world. We should have paid maternity leave. Our union should be stronger. I mean, it's just basic stuff. It's nothing that's so crazy, but we've moved so far from it. And so I think that it's been a surprise to everybody, including the senator. I mean, thousands and thousands, 43,000 people in New York's parks showing up, and, all over the place, people inside, outside, thousands and thousands of them saying we deserve more now. We deserve it. We're not going to take business as usual. And it's just a question of trying to get past the establishment media, and they still keep saying he's got to stop, and it's only Hillary. And I mean, what happens when she's indicted? No one's even talking about that.
Well, that's absolutely on the table, and I was listening to you, and I was thinking, I've never seen, and I've been around a little while. I've never seen as grassroots a campaign as I have from the senator, and his authenticity really strikes a chord with so many people who have grown to start paying attention.
I think that's the secret. They know they're hungry for authenticity. They're hungry for people being put above corporations, and whoever can sell that, and certainly if we can find the money to continuously be at war, we can find the money to give people what they need to have a decent education and a decent life. And that's all he's talking about, is narrowing that gap and taxing Wall Street on their investments and closing loopholes and getting rid of waste in the military. It's not anything that's so crazy. We're not talking about seizing people's farms and redistributing wealth or anything. We're talking about really basic FDR New Deal kind of thinking. And I'm just so moved by every time I hear him speak and I see him relate with people, because people get it, and I think this is my opinion, but I think that initially he just said something has to be done, and I think he was even surprised that it took fire the way that it did. He knew what his rules were going to be in terms of how he would accept money. He knew the limitations. He didn't want to take any super PACs. That was the whole point. And what he's saying seems drastic because we've become so lulled into accepting certain things as the way it has to be. And now people are saying, you know what, maybe our democracy doesn't have to be like that. Let's go back to one vote per person. Let's go back to, small donations. Let's get away from our government being controlled. And all of her delegates, every single one that I've seen listed, they're all lobbyists for everything that, he's talking about changing. So how can you be progressive and be funded that way? And I think that even Trump supporters, what has fueled that, although I can't quite figure out what his platform is, although he seems less interventionist than she is, but are responding basically with the same frustration. And so it's so interesting, isn't it, that you have two guys that have risen this way. It's like something Kurt Vonnegut would write if he were alive. It's so crazy.
That's a great reference. I agree with that. I never thought about that. I know that you have to go. Thank you for calling, and it was. Well,
we're watching Kentucky. I'm really curious to see. I know you've got great pie. I worked a little bit there, and I really love that pie. So we're watching, and I'm hoping that it goes without some of the problems we had in New York during our voting,
right.
And we'll be seeing what comes down, and I thank you for talking to me.
No, I'm just thrilled to death that you called. It was great talking to you, Susan. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Wish you the best.
Thank you, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.